Hey, welcome to another interview with This Just In. I am here with Aaron Harrison, who works as a prop. What did you say? You're on contract, or you do contract prop work for things like Arrow and The Flash, Legend of Tomorrow, which I'm sure that's why most of you here. But he also has done lots of work on lots of things. So we wanted to talk about kind of who he is, some more behind the magic, I guess, in a way. So just to get started here, Aaron, if you can introduce yourself, maybe give a little bit of what you've worked on, and then, of course, what brought you to prop making.
Okay, hi, I'm Aaron Harrison of Harrison Arts. What have I worked on? Stargate, Continuum, the shows you, of course, mentioned. I'm just looking around the room here trying to remember all the shows that I've worked on. What was another one? First Wave, I did a lot of stuff for way back then. The 100. In fact, we kind of have this joke, I should have property of CW tattooed on my butt. Lucifer sometimes built stuff for basically whoever calls me. Oh, and I just built some stuff for the, Prison Break. Yeah.
Excellent. Looking back, what brought you towards prop making? I mean, usually there's a story about what caught your eye, and of course getting into the industry. But what started that love? Because of course you're also a big fan of props anyway. So how did that all start, and what brought you to here?
Let's see. My dad was jack of all trades, so he had a full workshop, paint shop, electronic shop. Like, he was a genius, an engineer, like I say. So I'd started learning from him how to build stuff, work with leather. When you're a kid, you want all this stuff, but you can't find it in the store or buy it, so you start making it. So probably started, like I say, when I was a kid. I started getting into the film industry in '88, when my first job was an extra on the original 21 Jump Street. Yeah, I actually kind of knew Johnny Depp when he was just Johnny Depp. And Peter DeLuise, who I still know. Yeah. And then, years later, I started working on... worked in one shop, and I started doing stuff for First Wave, built a lot of leather work for them. After that, moved on to just constantly getting called up to build more stuff. Then I got hired into Stargate to build the Anubis Jaffa, or we called him the Cowl Warrior at the time. And I helped build that suit. That was a big team effort for that one. And then, it's just since then, just constantly. And then as far as Arrow, I got a call from Ken out of the blue saying, "Can you make eye patches? I happen to have a friend who needs one." So I was like, yeah, I can make those, and I know who this is for. I could just guess. And then about a week later, he's like, "So how are you making tactical gear?" That's how I learned how to sew, building tactical gear for the police department. He goes, "Okay, I think you're our guy. I need you to look up a character. His name's Deathstroke, A-R-K." I'm like, "You're kidding me? Deathstroke Arkham Asylum?" "Yeah, let me check if I have time on my schedule." And I put the phone down, walked into the other room, was like, "Yes!" And then came back and said, "Yeah, I think I can do it."
So obviously you're a fan.
Huge fan. Always collected comic books, always drew comic book characters, always, like I said to you before, I used to collect action figures, and now I make action figures, like live full suits. And I still cosplay myself and make up different costumes for characters.
That's it. What characters do you actually costume as?
Let's see, I just put together a Arkham-style Joker. I have my Frank Miller Batman, which I sometimes go to cons and interview people as punch-drunk Batman, like what you'd be like in his 50s after too many shots to the head. Who else do I have? I have my Mandalorian, and I kind of retiring Deathstroke, because I've kind of played that one out, because I made my own version of him, because it's Deathstroke. And one more. What was the other one? Oh, Deadpool, who I went to the movie screening wearing the costume. Ironically, somebody stole our seats, and I had to stand there and stare at them in the front of the entire theater, pointing at these guys going, right? So
that's awesome. Looking back at the work you've done on well, actually, I know this, and you haven't mentioned it yet, but so you worked on Deathstroke for Arrow. Have you done anything for Flash?
I only did one thing. I did Joe's gun holster. They don't have a lot of leather work on the show. It's more like tech-looking stuff, and their superheroes are kind of a different direction. On Arrow, there's a lot of quivers, especially last season. Everybody had a quiver and everybody had a bow. Everybody. There's just a lot of bows and a lot of quivers. And on Legends, I've worked on Jonah Hex, which was just another big geek moment for me. The only person I think geeking out more was the actor. Is a huge fan of, so he was like happy, so happy to be playing the character. And of course, Kronos, who was the big one this season for us to build. And that was actually quite a bit of work. That was a team effort between myself and Ken and Maya and Paco and Trinita, and we just had this huge powwow trying to figure out how to build this thing.
Was that a fun one? Because that's literally one of these characters that has never been done. Plus, it is also bounty hunting. It's also got all those like elements, Star Wars elements, armor elements, all those things that you've already been doing in the past. So how is that, like, how did all those lead into Kronos?
Well, the big reference we had was Boba Fett. He's got to have that Boba Fett feel. And of course, even in the first episode you see him in, what is it? You had to pick a fight with Boba Fett. That one was a lot of fun, and there was a lot of back and forth on the phone. What do you think of this idea? Oh, I've got this thing with this texture, we've got these pieces. And I mean, the first time we got it set up and brought in, they liked it, and then we had to set off the paint and then do a pile more, but he literally hit the ground running. As soon as it was done, it was on camera.
That's awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
Well, that is awesome. What you said it was a big collaboration, but what specifically did you work on?
Built the armor, like the chest plate. Parts of it we resourced out of another piece that was done before. Sourced out certain parts to make them, but pretty well from here down. And then there were certain pieces that were really detailed that were done by Paco. The bracers, time gauntlet things, those were done by Paco. The helmet was done by Booth over at White Monkey Effects. And like literally, I can't take credit for the whole thing. I can just take credit for killing myself building a lot of it and getting to hang out with the actor and the stunt guy, constantly making sure to like fix it, because that suit went through like some brutal stunts. The first day we used it, he got cable pulled into a car, he got cable pulled across a room. Then the next day they threw him across a forest and 30 feet up and 30 feet back into a tree. Pieces went everywhere at that point.
Is that a internal groan when you see that kind of thing?
You know what? It's an internal groan when you see pieces fly everywhere, but then when you get a look at it and you're like, wait, this thing's all still together. Yes, I built something that works. Yeah, it's not really a groan. It's just stunts are pretty hard on props and costumes. We all know this. We consider sometimes that, yeah, it's broken.
Yeah, no, there's a couple different ways to do props, obviously, and there's a couple of end results of props. But some of your things, like you mentioned, your quivers and holsters and such, those are functional. Those are things that work as they're made to do. And then you have things that are pretend they do what they do. Do you have a preference of which you make?
Things I don't have to make 500 times over, like scabbards. It's like 30 scabbards after a while. You just want to 4 in the morning still building these things. And I mean, some of them are practical or kind of look practical, or they're mostly practical. But really, it's just as long as, excuse me, as long as my creative juices can keep going. It's like right before Kronos was, I need another Deathstroke. I need another thing I can really munch on and chew on and build. And that's the kind of thing I really like. It's a big challenge, something that's really different. When the arrow quiver was the first thing I did this season, when it was sent to me, it was a picture. They asked for something that roughly looked the same. I built exactly what was in the picture. I scanned the picture, or I took the picture, I photoshopped it until it was the right size, I made a complete pattern, sent it off, and even Ken said, well, I didn't expect like it finished. You just had to build a rough for us. We could have worked it out later, but next thing you know, I had to build another one the next day because Stephen wanted one to wear at the Comic-Con. So
now this quiver is quite a bit different than the previous quiver, aside from the fact that as costume propped fans, we've noticed that the arrows are obviously fake. I mean, they're in there so that they don't fall. I mean, there's the one scene where he's hanging upside down and the arrows don't come out, which would never happen.
There's a techie thing inside that holds them. Yes.
Like Hawkeye, right?
Yes, yeah, that's it, like Hawkeye.
But they were also shorter in the season 1 version. Do you know, like, so when you look at the season 1/3 version compared to this one, is it more functional? Is it a better quiver? Is it better constructed? Like, how do you feel the difference? I mean, it's got an evolution, obviously.
Well, one, it's easier to make. It's much easier to make. It's cleaner, and so far it actually takes the punishment really well. We had one come back that was kind of crushed. The bottom popped out, but that was after an entire season of use. So, yeah, the evolution, I mean, it's much more practical for the actor. It has a little more flexibility. It's bigger, so it holds more arrows, so people can't count and say he should be out by now. And it just looks flashier. It looks more high-tech. It's got more streamline to it. It's got that little carving in it. So, yeah, that one so far I think is the best. And again, it's easier to make.
Oh, for sure. So actually, yeah, the green arrow quiver is pretty cool because of the new look, like you were mentioning. The one thing we talked to Ocean Drive Leather about was how the new suit is very more combat ready. It looks more like the whole suit, like the vest. It's thicker. It's more like almost combat. Even and the quiver reflects this new look, where the previous one was, I don't know, like it was much more homemade almost looking, where the new one just has that technical combat look.
Well, that's because they have convenience of Palmer Tech. See, so Palmer Tech is why it looks that way. It's not because we came up with a better, cooler design or built nicer stuff. It's Palmer Tech.
No, of course. So the techniques that you use, you've mentioned about how they're easier. One thing I'll be going through, and I'm pretty sure it's similar, but sometimes you have to create templates and go from there. But trying to break down any project that you work on, kind of what your first stage is, and then to the end, and what techniques you employ and whatnot.
Whew, okay, well, first, they usually I get a lot of pictures from Andy Poon, who's like a brilliant, artist, and Maya and him will basically come up with the concept. Then they ask me to try and take that, one-dimensional picture and flesh it out. So I'll try a couple of different things. I have tons of mannequins just for that purpose. I've used my assistant as a mannequin more than once. And just try and find a way that it's going to work, if we can have it mobile, comfortable for the actor, but yet, like, sometimes the hardest part is it's got to look like it's tight, but it's got to be easily removable and comfortable. So after a lot of trial and error, and I've learned a lot since 3 years ago when I started, like on this show, having to take things, like make leather look like it's metal, even though it's leather, or plastic or whatever. That's the one versatility about leather, is that you can make it do pretty well anything you want. Sometimes if it has a mind of its own, but even like, for example, like I was saying with the carving on the quiver, and that started off as like this thing. This was a holster I made for a costume, and it had all the scribing into it, and that was using a new tool. But yeah, all the scribing and everything in here was just experimenting for a look. And then when the arrow quiver came across my desk, I was like, this will do it. And now it's actually been incorporated into a few different things. Chronos to give some detail lines to make it look like welded pieces. Some of the ways I change my riveting to make it like just the way you take something and use it the way it's not supposed to. Doesn't mean it's not going to work. You're just innovating. And so it's the same thing, even gluing technique, and then how to make the glues work, different dyes and stains and paints, which normally, again, you're using it the way it's not supposed to, but you try experimenting. It works, and you just keep a note of that and keep going. And it's the same thing with any of this stuff, same thing with most prop building. Like a lot of shows you've noticed, Nerf guns are being rebuilt into other guns, and it's like, ask Ken the story about the guy who was a designer on 2001. That's his story, so I'll let him tell it, but it is a very inspiring story for prop building.
It's fantastic. Prop building usually comes down to taking something, making it look like something else, regardless what it is. What I've talked to my viewers about before is there's obviously repurposing props, where you take something and you just use it something else, whether it's a repaint or adding things on like the Nerf guns, whether it's completely custom made, machined, 3D printed, anything like that. And then of course there's just the whole just fabrication aspect. Like everything lends itself in. And do you have a preference on which version?
Well,
Does it create more work?
sometimes you have to go straight from scratch. It's just you want to have something like, the quivers. They have to look like something nobody else has. Whereas sometimes, well, let's put it this way. When you have to do an army of guys, yes, I completely like repurposing, because it's just doing it over and over again is just crazy. Especially like the League of Assassins, we rebuilt the quivers out of a different quiver. The belts, though, were originally bought from a store. Well, they don't make them anymore. So now I have to make every one of those. Then the buckles had to slightly change because we couldn't find the buckles anywhere. So now you're hunting down that specific buckle. There's, a lot of resourcing, a lot of things you have to find. But then again, sometimes you find something and you're like, yep, paint it. That's it right there.
I've had that in Jedi costuming, sometimes too, by the time you get back to it, whether it's you guys or us as fans, it's been a few years, or it's been a year, and you finally identify it, and it's gone and over with. Or sometimes you're lucky, you find the name of it, you can find it, like we found the Arsenal buckle, which was pretty fun, and was a nice, and actually is a part you can get, but I mean, that could discontinue any time, and then you guys would be faced with, oh, hey, we need a new buckle, and you gotta...
Deathstroke shoulder pads, which are only available in Canada.
Yes, that's one of the benefits of being in Canada and looking at props that are made in Canada, is a lot of times they go to the store, and then there's been a few times I've actually recognized things right off the bat, only because I've seen them. The Deathstroke shoulder armor, a lot of people were discussing about that back when it started. I wasn't really paying attention, but as soon as I saw a picture, I was like, oh, you can get that at Rona or Home Depot or Canadian Tire or any of those stores, True Value, anything. And
Deathstroke's carabiners, we like the look of those, got them. Then when it came to making more, nobody in town had any left. We had to order some in a rush directly from the company. So like sometimes it'll bite you in the ass. It'll still look good, but you're like, damn it, now we have to find more. Nisa Gould, Nisa. There's kind of a patterning on her bracers and on her equipment that was an old waterform I had for years. And they said, we just need something with texture, a lot of lines in it, so I used that. And then when it came to doing Risha Gould, we wanted patterning in his belt. I'm like, well, why don't we use the same one, because this is his daughter's, so, and we just used it, so I still have this pattern, but the mold is old, so now I have to treat it very delicately, because if it breaks, I'm kind of hooped.
One question I asked the guys at Ocean Drive, which I'll ask you too, is has there been, actually first I'll ask you two questions. One is, what is your most favorite costume that you've worked on so far, out of whether it's just the superhero version suits or whether it's all time? What's your favorite one that you're very proud of?
Deathstroke.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that was the best. It was a first, and one time Ken and I were got asked this question about what was our favorite prop, our favorite thing, and he said Deathstroke, and then I had to mention the Quiver, where you saw the episode where they had to go to another country and had to build all their stuff out of duct tape and that. Well, here's the thing: is the Quiver was made out of I had to scratch build an ink blotter and then turn it into a quiver. And then all the strapping was made out of electrical braided. And Ken and I were like, this looks really good. This looks fantastic. This looks too good. Apparently the duct tape thing was to make it look less good, because it looks so good that unless you knew what it was made out of, you'd think it was just a really nice quiver they somehow found in their room. So that's one of my favorite props that we built. But yeah, Deathstroke, hands down. Even though Kronos was fun, Deathstroke was still the most fun for me. Deathstroke
was one of the first real big weight DC villains on TV that we never even thought we'd even get, never mind fully suited. When Slade Wilson was first announced, I remember people were like, oh, is it just going to be, the plain clothes, eye patch, and then of course then there's the full suit. So I'm very happy with it.
No matter what, if you see him in a movie now or any other show, we did the first.
You did.
We have claim. Sorry. So everything else after is just a copy of our stuff.
Exactly. Now, what about on the flip side? Is there a hero or villain out of the entire DC universe that you would love to work on, put your mark on either of these shows?
That's a tough one. I mean, Batman would be a quick one to say, but I mean, Batman's not a lot of armoring and leather work.
Ocean Drive said that one too.
Yeah. Well, then I have my Batman already that I've built. So, oh man, that's a really tough one. There's so many to choose from. Oh wait, which is the name of the guy? Marvel has Taskmaster, but there's another guy. Sportsmaster, is that his name? That's the Marvel one, right?
No, I think I'm pretty sure.
Right, Sportsmaster. He's the guy who can imitate other people's. He has all the different weaponry and everything. That one would be fun. But really, anything that just had as many bits and pieces and armor and badassery as Deathstroke, it's really going to be hard to top that. I mean, with Kronos, if you've looked up the original Kronos, ours looks very little like him. We tried to take tiny little elements like the stripes on his pants. If you look at the armor, there's little lines, the hourglass in his chest. Those were about the only details, because the original guy looked like a circus clown. He looked like an evil mime. Ours luckily doesn't look like that.
It's DC, and Marvel doesn't escape it either, but DC has if you go back far enough and you use their lower pantheon of villains and heroes, they don't really let themselves too good.
Well, the one thing I think on the CW that's been really good about the design and all the characters is they all kind of have a definitive look. You may see some similarities, but I mean, I love watching Marvel shows too, but the one thing I kind of find is that when you look at their suits, they all look like they shop at the same store. They all kind of have that chunky square thing going on. Like Daredevil's outfit looks very much like Captain America's, and even Thor, who's supposed to be from another world, kind of again looks like he shops in the same store. Whereas with ours, it really comes down to where they came from. Like Kronos was supposed to look like he made his suit out of parts and pieces and parts of a ship, and has been slowly replacing it with other pieces if it gets damaged. Arrow, his has had a nice evolution, where it started off like a guy wearing some stuff he wore on the island, to now where it's got the bracers and the Kevlar pieces and the layers and the gadgetry and the little bits. I mean, even Speedy, you can kind of see the difference on hers from the original Speedy, Red Arrow, Arsenal. But they all kind of have it's kind of their own definitive look, and they don't look like they all shop at the same store.
No, I agree. That's one thing I actually really, really like. Sometimes even when you look at the new Batman vs. Superman, Batman and Superman, both costumes have a lot of similarity as far as that they both have texture and they both have the 3D rays. Yeah, so I can see what you're saying. That they almost look like sometimes. But the CW they've all been really unique, all been very different, and I mean a great collaboration between obviously Maya and yourself and Ken and Ocean Drive. All you guys have really come together, and Andy Poon as well.
Then you also got the Atom suit, which I didn't have any part with. My girlfriend assistant, she actually assists on it now, or at least did last season. But that looks like completely different. It looks like Palmer Tech, but it doesn't look like, again, it came out of the same store.
It's not a leather jacket and pants.
And there's no quiver. No quiver.
Which I'm sure Ray would have wanted one, though.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And pulls out another glove, sticks it on, fires it, pulls out another glove, fires it. Yeah, went on.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate meeting with you. Oh, wait. Oh, you want to show something? Yeah, that's good.
Souvenir for your trip. I try to make stuff like this every year. Last year I made Maricrew energy drink. So this year I made Kronos Cola, when disintegration of your prey isn't enough. And if you just read the fine print at the bottom.
This is copyright 2046, Haircut Beverage Company, a subsidiary of Palmer Technologies.
In other words, Haircut, the nickname for Palmer. But yeah.
That's great.
So yeah, I got these little souvenir bottles that I make up.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. I'm just going to pass them to my cameraman there. Thank you so much. No, thank you so much for meeting with me. It's fantastic to meet you. It's great to see this stuff behind the scenes. I mean, fans like us, you see it on TV, you see the photos, you try and dissect it, you try and understand it. Aaron's also on one of my groups, so he gets to see us all struggle and trying to get it and watch it from afar and give us nudges here and there.
I can't give away all the, like I told Ken, I won't tell you guys how it's built, but I'll let you know when you're going the right way.
He let us know when we had the colors wrong. That was for sure. But anyway, thank you so much. If you guys have any questions or comments for myself, ask me down in the comments below. Please be aware, Aaron will not be able to answer your questions. You won't be able to get him to make you quivers from the show. I mean, if you wanted to hire him to do a custom quiver, I mean, you can talk that. You can figure.
Yeah, I can't. I can't make copies of what I make for the show because I like job security. If I start doing that, I'm out of a job. In fact, I'm out of a job with everybody because it's just bad mojo. And you can check out my Facebook page, Harrison Arts, also on Facebook. You can see other works I've done, non-film things I've done, and yeah. Comments.
I'll put those links right in the description, so be sure you check those out. Be sure to like them there as well, and check out everything. It is amazing. I'm hoping he'll let me do just a little flyby close-ups here that you can see some of it, or maybe you've already seen it hopefully at this point. And you can see he's very talented. Does a lot of great work. Be sure you check that out as well. Anyway, thank you so much for liking and subscribing. Be sure to click over here and subscribe to my. I'm gonna have hopefully some more interviews from this weekend or this week that I've been here. It's been a lot of fun. But as always, thanks for watching.